You ever just think you know a story? Like really know it? It's been part of your cultural DNA since you were a kid, right?
Totally.
You can hum the tunes, picture the scenes, practically quote the lines, and then someone comes along and just pulls the rug out from under all of it.
Yeah.
Not just a twist, but like a whole new foundation, a secret history that was always there, just waiting for someone brave enough to, dig it up.
Yeah, that's such a specific kind of revelation, isn't it? It's not just a simple plot twist. It's a total reframe.
Right.
Like you thought you were walking through a familiar house and then boom, you find a hidden basement
Mm-hmm.
full of secrets you never knew existed.
Yeah.
You're left thinking, okay, what else have I just been accepting? Like what else is lurking beneath the surface of stories I thought were totally settled?
Exactly. That's the vibe we're stepping into today. Welcome back to the deep dive. This is number 13. Today, we're peeling back the layers on a story that's probably etched into your childhood memories, something a lot of us grew up with, still have a soft spot for.
Sure.
But this isn't the version you remember. We're diving into a project called Scar's Truth Unseen Throne. And trust me, after this, you'll never look at that particular villain the same way again.
It's wild because it feels like we just can't seem to get enough of Daniel Bates, can we? Or, a Daniel's Vision or Dante East or DLB.
Right.
His name or his names just keeps circling back into our orbit, demanding we dig a little deeper every single time. It feels like there's always another layer to unpack.
Seriously, if you've been with us for a minute, you know Daniel L. Bates' name has definitely come up before. Way back in episode 6, we were talking about Twice Saved My Life.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
That was that deep, raw confession piece where he talked about how K-pop, of all things, kind of pulled him out of a really dark, numb place, back from feeling like he completely lost the rhythm of life. It was a really personal, vulnerable look at how powerful art can actually be.
I remember that vividly. That conversation really stuck with me. It's just such an honest articulation of feeling profoundly disconnected, that feeling of being completely adrift.
Yeah.
And the insight that something as seemingly external as music could reignite that internal spark, that sense of self.
Mm-hmm.
It really highlighted for me what truly drives someone to create, to connect.
Definitely.
It was less about K-pop specifically and more about what it represented for him in that moment of rediscovery. It was powerful stuff.
For sure. And then, not long after, in episode 9, we dove into The Boy Who Stole Time. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, the Peter Pan theory. Wild.
That's where we explored Adaniel's Vision's mind-bending Peter Pan theory. The way he just took that whole beloved childhood narrative and completely spun it on its head, right? It wasn't just some fan theory. It felt like a psychological dismantling of something we'd all just taken for granted.
That deep dive was insane. It completely flipped our understanding of the hero and the villain. Peter Pan wasn't the innocent boy anymore. He was this, chilling, almost manipulative force, trapping kids in eternal adolescence.
Right. So creepy when you put it that way.
And Captain Hook. Suddenly he became this tragic figure, desperately trying to free everyone from this gilded cage. It shifted the whole narrative from simple good versus evil to this profound psychological battle.
Between growing up and staying stuck.
Exactly. Between the natural urge to grow and the seductive pull of stagnation.
Mm-hmm.
It really showed a mind that doesn't just consume stories, but dissects the mechanics behind them, looking for the underlying truths.
And most recently, just in episode 12, we really tried to unpack that whole constellation of identities connected to Daniel Bates. We talked about how each name seemed to unlock a different dimension of his creative output, how he used them. DLB as the armor, right? Dante East as the escape, and Daniel Bates himself as the ghost. It was a lot to take in, honestly, trying to map out how one person could embody so many distinct personas.
It really was. It made you question the very nature of identity itself and how much we truly ever see of anyone, including ourselves,
Totally.
It felt less like some calculated branding exercise and more like a really deep personal survival mechanism, like a way to navigate a really intense internal landscape. And let's be real, a cutthroat industry.
Yeah.
He was essentially constructing different versions of himself just to function, to create, maybe even just to exist.
Right. There's always something else bubbling up with him. And that's exactly why our curiosity kept pulling us back, especially when we heard about this new project, Scar's Truth Unseen Throne. It just felt like another crucial piece of the puzzle, revealing even more about how he sees the world, how he uses storytelling, and how he uses these iconic figures to process his own, like, deeper truths.
Yeah.
It's like he's not just telling stories, he's dissecting them, finding the hidden veins, exposing what's really beating underneath the surface.
And that really, at its core,
Mm.
is what a Daniel's vision is all about, isn't it? We've touched on it before, but this isn't just some pen name or a casual creative alias.
No way.
It's been described as Daniel L. Bates's surgical truth side. It's where he really gets into dissecting cultural memory, identity, legacy, all through visual storytelling and filmmaking.
Surgical truth side. I like that.
Yeah, the phrase that always echoes for me is, every script is a blade, every essay a mirror. It's not about just superficial entertainment. It's about uncovering, about cutting straight to the heart of something, no matter how uncomfortable that truth might be.
Yeah, surgical truth side. That's such a powerful way to put it. It's not about just telling a story. It's like performing an autopsy on it, right? Opening it up, looking inside, and showing you what's really driving it. What hidden organs are powering the narrative.
Exactly.
And like we saw with his Peter Pan reimagining, a Daniel's vision consistently takes these beloved, iconic stories, these narratives we think we know inside and out, and he just flips them. Not just for cheap shock value, but to explore deeper, often much darker truths about human nature, about societal constructs.
Precisely. It's way more than just fan fiction or some clever twist. It's a sophisticated method to pull real, often uncomfortable truth through the scaffolding of pop culture.
Right, using what we already know.
Yeah, he's using a familiar narrative, like a comforting shell, to smuggle in a deeper commentary on society, on power dynamics, on the human condition itself. He's leveraging what we already recognize and hold dear to force us to see something entirely new, something perhaps we've been blind to all along.
And that's exactly what he seems to be doing with Scar's Truth Unseen Throne. This isn't just some random project thrown together. It's introduced as a full-blown mythic origin noir.
Okay, pause. Mythic origin noir.
Right. Just that title alone makes you stop and think. It immediately signals this isn't going to be your typical straightforward villain origin story. No cartoonish backstory here.
No, and the ambition doesn't stop there. The format description itself is incredibly bold. A prestige animated feature live-action fantasy hybrid.
Whoa.
Okay.
That screams high concept, boundary pushing, aiming for like cinematic excellence rather than just a reinterpretation for reinterpretation's sake. It tells you they're serious about the storytelling.
Yeah, and then the tone breakdown. Get this. The Green Knight meets Black Panther meets Joker.
Wow. Okay, that's a blend.
I mean, if that doesn't immediately tell you this isn't the Scar you thought you knew, I don't know what will. You've got the Green Knight for that mythic, kind of somber, existential dread, right? The weight of fate and honor.
The atmosphere.
And Black Panther brings in that rich, complex kingdom, the cultural depth, the intricate societal structures, the politics.
Like Honda vibes, yeah.
And Joker.
Yeah.
Well, that's for the dark psychological unraveling, where the supposed villain is less a monster and more a product of systemic failures, pushed to the brink by a society that ignored and then demonized him.
Right.
That blend immediately tells you this is going to be something completely different, something profound and probably pretty unsettling. That combination definitely sets the stage for a deeply empathetic yet unflinching character study. It implies a narrative that really delves into the societal forces that shape a perceived villain, rather than just presenting some caricature of pure evil.
Exactly.
It's just nuance, tragedy, and perhaps even a biting critique of the very society that, in its rigidity, kind of creates its own monsters. It's asking us to look inward at the systems that perpetuate suffering.
And the log line. Oh, it's so provocative. It just grabs you. Listen to this. Before he was the villain, he was the forgotten son.
Okay, chills already.
In a kingdom that worshipped strength and silenced dissent, a brilliant lion named Taka is wounded in body, in spirit, in name. But scars don't just mark the past. They shape the future.
Wow.
This is the story of how a thinker became a threat, how a brother became a shadow, and how a crown chose the wrong lion.
Forgotten son. Kingdom that worships strength and silenced dissent. Thinker became a threat. Okay, that logline just completely upends everything we thought we knew about Scar. It positions him not as inherently evil, but as a consequence of his environment. A product of systemic biases, the crushing weight of expectation, and a society that just refused to see him for who he truly was. It's a tragedy unfolding from the very first sentence.
Really?
It forces you to consider the broader implications immediately.
Exactly. It sets him up as someone who was misunderstood, overlooked, even punished, not for being bad, but for being different, for being a thinker in a kingdom that apparently valued raw strength and immediate action over wisdom and introspection.
Yeah.
It paints such a vivid picture of a society that actively creates its own shadows by not making space for certain kinds of brilliance, for those who don't fit that predetermined mold. It's like, how many brilliant minds throughout history have been suppressed because their ideas were too uncomfortable for the status quo?
It makes you wonder how many villains in our own stories, real or imagined, are simply individuals who were pushed to the margins, whose voices were silenced, whose unique contributions were devalued, until their only perceived option was to disrupt the very system that rejected them.
Mm-hmm.
It challenges that simplistic notion of inherent good or evil. It's much messier.
So let's really dive deep into these core themes, because this is where the unseen layers of Scar's story through adanielsvision's lens start to unravel in a way that resonates with so much more than just a fictional lion, you know?
Let's do it.
First up, we've got rejection versus recognition. The log line already hints at it, but this take on Taka, that's Scar's birth name, remember, is just fascinating. He's not weak, apparently.
Right?
He's ahead of his time, a philosopher trapped in a monarchy of brute force.
A philosopher trapped in a monarchy of brute force. That's a profound identity to impose on a character, especially one we've always just seen as the bad guy, plain and simple.
Totally.
His greatest sin, we're told, was asking the wrong questions in a kingdom built on silence. That implies a society that actively suppresses intellectual curiosity, where challenging the status quo, even with profound wisdom or a genuine desire for improvement, is seen not just as an inconvenience, but as like an existential threat to the established order. It's a kingdom where critical thought is basically treason.
It's like, in the Pride Lands, if you're not roaring the loudest or physically dominating everything, you're just not seen as valuable. You're not deemed worthy of the throne or even just basic respect.
Yeah.
And Taka, he's thinking, he's observing, he's questioning the very foundations of his world. And that's a dangerous trait in a kingdom built on such rigid power structures where tradition is like dogma. We even get glimpses of his early life that really drive this home right from the very beginning, apparently.
Yes, the naming ceremony, for instance. It's depicted as such a subtle but totally devastating moment. Baby Taka is named last, almost like an afterthought.
Oh, man.
The light from the sun, which usually symbolizes divine favor or destiny, literally skips over him, while Mufasa is cheered, celebrated, bathed in warmth and adulation.
Wow.
And the camera then pans to Taka's tiny face, portraying him as already knowing his fate, already sensing this profound sense of being overlooked, of being secondary. That image, a cub already internalizing his place in the shadows. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And it foreshadows his entire tragic future. It's like a prophecy of neglect right there.
That's such a heavy burden for a tiny cub to carry, this innate, almost preternatural sense of being overlooked, of knowing he's not the chosen one.
Seriously.
And then you see their father, Ahadi, watching Taka and Mufasa spar. Instead of nurturing Taka's unique approach, his strategic mind, he tells him, "A king does not dance around his duty, Taka. He commands it." He completely dismisses Taka's wisdom, saying, "Kings are not made of whispers, and wisdom waits, Mufasa acts." It's just a direct invalidation of Taka's very nature.
That parental dismissal is absolutely crucial. It's not just a casual slight. It reinforces the societal bias from the earliest, most formative age. Taka's unique intelligence, his thoughtful, strategic mind, is not only unappreciated, but actively invalidated by the very person who should be nurturing it.
Yeah, his own father.
He's told that his way of thinking, his quiet wisdom, his intellectual depth is secondary, inferior even, to Mufasa's raw strength and immediate, decisive action. This pushes him further into the shadows, making him feel fundamentally misunderstood, which is just a recurring and devastating theme in his journey.
And it's not just his dad either. We get a scene where Taka eavesdrops on the elders, the wisest, most respected figures in the Pride, and they're talking about Mufasa as the sunrise and the shield, all this incredibly powerful, positive, almost divine imagery. While Taka, they simply say he will find his place, that his wisdom waits in the wings.
Oof. Benevolent dismissal.
Exactly. It's a benevolent dismissal, almost, but a dismissal nonetheless. This isn't just a family dynamic. It's systemic bias, the entire culture of Pride Rock, pushing him to the margins, making him an outsider from within his own pride, even as he clearly yearns for acceptance.
That systemic bias is undeniably key. It's not merely a personal slight that Taka is feeling. It's the entire cultural ethos of Pride Rock reinforcing his otherness, his perceived inadequacy.
Yeah.
His brilliance, his introspective nature, his capacity for deep thought is consistently viewed as a liability, not an asset, within a system that prioritizes brute strength and outward displays of power. And when an individual's core identity, their unique gifts, are consistently devalued by their environment and by those who should champion them, well, it can inevitably lead to deep resentment, to a profound sense of being fundamentally misunderstood, and ultimately to a destructive sense of alienation.
Which leads us perfectly into the second theme, intelligence as heresy. The source describes Scar's journey as truth as infection, where the kingdom's myth of harmony begins to crack under scrutiny.
Truth as infection. Whoa.
It's like his brilliance isn't just unappreciated, it's actively seen as a dangerous thing, like a disease that could undermine the very fabric of their society.
That is a potent and chilling metaphor. It implies that the kingdom's carefully constructed narrative of peace and order is incredibly fragile, built upon hidden foundations of deception and selective memory.
Right.
Scar, with his keenly inquiring mind, becomes the vector for revealing these hidden truths, these inconvenient realities, and for that very act of seeking and exposing truth, he is demonized, cast out as a threat. It's such a familiar pattern throughout history, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Those who question the official story are often branded as traitors or madmen.
Totally. And it comes to a head with his discovery of the Forbidden Archive. He finds these ancient suppressed records hidden in dark caverns beneath pride, rock histories of wars, betrayals, cover-ups.
No way.
The source describes it as uncovering the truth of a lineage where the throne has never been clean. And then the truly shocking reveal. The first Lion King crowned in blood.
Oh, damn. That's a total game changer. That's the undeniable turning point, isn't it?
It has to be.
This secret, buried knowledge becomes both his burden and his ultimate power. It shatters the myth of a pure, benevolent, divinely chosen monarchy that Pride Rock has perpetuated for generations.
Mm-hmm.
When you uncover the uncomfortable, violent truths about the very foundations of a system you're a part of, it fundamentally alters your perception of that system, your place within it. It forces you to see the cracks, the hypocrisy, the lies.
Yeah.
And for Scar, it doesn't just validate his earlier suspicions that something was profoundly wrong. It ignites this desperate, consuming need to expose that rot. He's not just a disillusioned prince anymore. He's now the keeper of a terrible, world-altering secret.
This means Scar isn't just upset because he was overlooked for the throne or because his brother was favored. He's got receipts.
He literally found the receipts.
He has discovered the rot at the absolute core of the kingdom, the very history they tried to bury, the truth of their violent origins. And that knowledge, that suppressed truth, it transforms him. It makes his quest not just personal revenge, but almost like a crusade, a desperate, albeit destructive, mission to expose the reality of Pride Rock, to force them to see what he now sees.
Which brings us to perhaps the most iconic and defining part of his identity. The scar itself.
Yeah.
The third theme is the scar as social branding. This wound isn't just a physical injury we hear, it's ritualized, institutionalized.
Whoa, okay, ritualized.
It's given a meaning beyond mere accident.
Yeah, that's intense. It's not just a random accident. It becomes something deeper, a permanent mark with profound social implications. We see it in the Challenge Gone Wrong scene. Taka is mauled while defending the border alone.
Alone. Oh, man.
By a rogue lion or buffalo, it's not specified, which almost makes it more ambiguous. And he's bleeding as Mufasa arrives too late to save him from the injury.
Too late, of course.
Then the name Scar is given. It starts as an act of pity, maybe a cruel kind of empathy, but it sticks like prophecy and, crucially never healed, becoming a constant, visible reminder of his pain and his difference.
The naming itself is depicted as an incredibly powerful act of imposed identity. It's not a name he chose for himself like a mark of pride or achievement. It was given to him by others, by the very society that already devalued him. It becomes a constant, painful reminder of his vulnerability, his perceived inadequacy, and how he was fundamentally perceived by everyone around him. It's a branding, a physical and psychological mark that defines him in the eyes of the tribe, permanently labeling him as the other, the wounded one, the one set apart.
And this take really hammers home the devastating power of a name or a label to completely shape someone's identity, sometimes totally against their will. There's this incredibly powerful quote from the source material: "When they can't control you, they name you. When they name you, they cage you."
Oof, read that again. When they can't control you, they name you. When they name you, they cage you.
That's not just about a physical wound or a literal name. It's about a profound psychological one. The name Scar becomes his prison, a brand of his otherness that he just can't escape no matter what he does, no matter how hard he tries to be seen differently. It defines him in the eyes of the world, and eventually, tragically, in his own.
It speaks to such a universal societal tendency, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To label and categorize individuals who don't conform, or those who threaten the status quo with uncomfortable truths.
Absolutely.
By giving him a name that highlights his perceived flaw or difference, the kingdom implicitly attempts to control him, to define his role within their rigid structure, to contain his perceived threat. It's a subtle but really insidious form of power exerted over an individual's identity, stripping them of their self-determination.
And then the fourth theme, where it gets really dark but also incredibly compelling, villainy as self-actualization. By Act 4, Scar doesn't just fall into evil as like a weakness or a simple moral failing. He chooses it.
Okay.
And why? Because villainy in this kingdom is the only way to speak the unspeakable.
Wow. That is a radical and profoundly unsettling shift in perspective. It frames his deliberate descent into villainy not as a moral failing in the traditional sense, but as a strategic, almost philosophical choice, like a last resort.
Yeah.
If the kingdom built on silence, won't allow truth to be spoken through conventional peaceful means, then radical disruption, even destructive acts, become the only perceived avenue for expression, for forcing the truth into the light. He weaponizes his ostracization, his rejection, turning it into a tool.
And it makes perfect sense, especially when you consider his alliances. He forms philosophical alliances with the hyenas in the elephant graveyard.
Philosophical alliances, not just convenience.
Apparently not just convenience. Shenzi, one of the hyenas, tells him, "Kingdoms called truth danger. Welcome to danger."
Yeah.
And she adds this incredibly insightful line, "They didn't fear me, just never trusted what I could see. Then you see clearly. That's the real threat." It's like she's speaking directly to his deepest wound, his intellectual isolation.
Okay, this is absolutely critical to understanding his transformation. It completely redefines the hyenas. They're not just inherently evil, scavenging simpletons anymore.
Right.
They're rejected, intelligent outsiders, much like him. They are the kingdom's outcasts, the ones who have also been marginalized and who see clearly what the pride, in its self-imposed blindness, chooses to ignore.
Exactly.
Scar finds this profound kinship with those who have also been cast out for their inconvenient truths, for their ability to see the world as it truly is. Their alliance becomes one of shared understanding and mutual resentment against a hypocritical, self-serving system.
It's like he finally finds people who not only see him, but who understand the immense weight of what he sees, the burden of his knowledge. And then you have that powerful public coronation scene for Mufasa. Scar watches from a distant, shadowed cliff, completely isolated from the celebration, and his internal monologue is just gut-wrenching. That day, I stopped asking, stopped hoping. I watched the crown fall on the same head that never looked down.
Oh, man. That moment is the devastating culmination of his lifelong rejection, isn't it? The final straw that irrevocably breaks his connection to the pride's values, to any hope of belonging or recognition within its established order.
It feels like it.
He realizes that the path of wisdom, of truth-telling, of genuine understanding is not valued by those in power, and maybe never will be. His hope for recognition, for his perspective to matter, for his voice to be heard, it just dies in that exact moment.
Yeah.
And in its place, something darker, more resolute, more dangerous is born. It's the birth of a revolutionary, maybe, albeit a tragic one.
And he fully embraces that darkness, that new identity, in what they call the ritual scene. It's not just an accident anymore. It's a conscious, deliberate act. He marks his own reflection with ash, physically extending his scar, consciously becoming Scar.
So he does it to himself.
Yeah, it's an act of self-branding, reclaiming the very thing that was imposed on him in his declaration. If this is what they see, let them see clearly. And then later, with this chilling resolve, let them see me. Let them finally see.
That's not a moment of weakness or surrender. It's a moment of defiant self-actualization. He's taking full control of the imposed identity, transforming it into a symbol of his chosen radical path.
Right.
He's essentially saying, if you're going to label me a monster, then I will embody that, I will embrace that, but I will do it entirely on my own terms. And I will use that monster to expose your blindness, your hypocrisy. It's a tragic but incredibly powerful reclaiming of his own narrative, a weaponization of his pain.
Which leads us to the final theme, truth versus legacy. This isn't framed as simple revenge. We're told it's revelation.
Revelation, not revenge. Okay.
Scar isn't just trying to seize power for personal gain. He's trying to force the kingdom to confront its own story, to shatter the comfortable lies they've been living under. He's not just trying to take over, he's trying to shake them awake, violently if necessary.
It's presented as this desperate, almost messianic attempt to force an uncomfortable truth into the light. Even if it means destroying the established order that has suppressed it for so long, he believes the kingdom is living a profound lie built on a corrupt foundation, and his actions are framed as a radical, indeed violent, act of truth-telling, a necessary tearing down of illusions.
And this comes out so powerfully in his final confrontations with Mufasa. Scar accuses him, "I never hated you. I hated the silence you ruled with."
Wow. Okay.
And Mufasa replies, maybe defensively, "I carried peace," to which Scar counters with devastating accuracy, "No, you carried blindness."
They carry blindness. Oof! That line alone just slices through everything. That's not just an accusation, it's a damning indictment of Mufasa's entire reign, of his character.
Totally.
It fundamentally shifts the blame from Scar's individual malice to Mufasa's perceived willful ignorance, his comfortable refusal to acknowledge the uncomfortable truths about his kingdom and its history.
Yeah.
It devastatingly suggests that Mufasa's peace was not built on genuine harmony or justice, but on suppression, on ignoring the suffering of the marginalized, and on burying inconvenient truths.
Yeah, and another piece of dialogue where Scar says, "You rule with light, but forget the root lives in dark." It's this profound philosophical statement about balance. And Mufasa's response, "Your anger will poison everything." Scar's counter is just brutal and so resonant with this whole theme. Only what was already rotting.
Only what was already rotting. Damn. This really positions Scar not as a creator of destruction, but as someone who believes he's merely exposing an existing rot, a sickness that was already consuming the kingdom from within. He's the surgeon, in his mind, cutting out the cancer.
He genuinely sees himself that way, like a surgeon cutting out a cancerous growth, not just a destructive force.
It completely reframes his motivations, transforming him into this tragic, almost noble figure in a twisted way, consumed by a truth no one else would see or accept.
Yeah.
He's not seeking to destroy for destruction's sake, but to reveal, to purify, to force an honesty that has been denied for generations. He's the dark mirror reflecting the kingdom's true self back at them.
And then, maybe the most chilling and heartbreaking moment described, the scene with young Simba. Scar watches him play, and his eyes are soft for a second, then harden with this terrible resolve.
Oh, no.
And his thought, "I saw myself in him. Innocent, foolish, loved. I never hated him. I just knew someone had to end the cycle."
Oh, my God. That's not pure evil. That's a profound, tragic sense of duty, like twisted duty.
Right. It adds this profound layer of tragic necessity to his actions. He doesn't hate Simba. He sees a younger, naive mirror of his own past vulnerability, his own overlooked potential, and more tragically, a continuation of the same cycle of ignorance and suppression that he believes is inherently corrupt. His ultimate act against Simba is presented as this desperate, misguided attempt to break that cycle, maybe to save Simba from inheriting a throne built on lies, or perhaps to prevent Simba from becoming another Mufasa, blind to the true nature of their kingdom. It's villainy born of perceived necessity, not just petty malice.
That is heavy. Really heavy.
And the ending voiceover is just gut-punching. It leaves you with this incredible sense of injustice, of a story deliberately suppressed. They'll call me villain, but history is a roar with no memory. I was never offered a pen.
Never offered a pen.
Wow. And then, even more pointedly, reinforcing that power dynamic, villains are written by kings, and I was never offered a pen. This powerfully frames Scar as the one whose story, whose truth, was completely suppressed, making his extreme actions a desperate, violent attempt to write his own truth into history, to leave an indelible mark when no other way was available.
It's a profound commentary on that age-old reality, right, that the victors write history, and how narratives of good and evil are often constructed by those in power to maintain their legacy, justify their reign, and just erase any dissent.
Yeah.
Scar, in this telling, is the ultimate erased voice, fighting to be seen and heard by any means necessary, driven by the knowledge that if he doesn't tell his story, no one will, and the truth will just remain buried forever.
And that's where we circle back to Daniel Bates himself, because what we've just unpacked with Scar, this idea of suppressed truth, of a chosen identity that becomes a weapon, of challenging a deeply ingrained narrative, it's incredibly resonant with Daniel's own journey that we've touched on.
Definitely.
The whole idea of identity as survival and strategy. Scar's forced identity as Scar because of how he was perceived, how he was branded by others.
Exactly. And we've talked about Daniel Bates's fragmented identities. DLB is the armor, right? A shield against the world. Dante East is the escape, a persona to transcend. And Daniel Bates himself as the ghost, the legal self, the unseen truth. For both Scar and Daniel, identity isn't just a gimmick or some creative choice. It feels like a meticulously constructed, often painful system for survival and creative expression. It's about navigating a world that might not accept your full, unvarnished self, so you build other selves to operate within it.
And that ghost persona for Daniel Bates, the legal self who lived unseen, the truths he kept hidden, it mirrors Scar's unseen throne, his hidden truths and his suppressed history so closely.
It really does.
We even talked about Daniel's upcoming memoir, The Many Lives of Daniel, Tales Whispered by the Unseen. It all connects, doesn't it? This persistent theme of what is hidden, what is truly unseen, whether it's a character's history or a person's inner world.
Absolutely. And Daniel's quote from the memoir is chillingly similar in spirit to Scar's plight, that feeling of being erased. DLB was the armor. Dante East was the escape. Daniel Bates was the ghost. This book, it's the ghost talking. I had to tell it before it swallowed me.
Wow, before it swallowed me.
It highlights that universal human struggle, doesn't it? Of bringing hidden truths to light, of integrating fractured parts of oneself before those unexpressed parts consume you. It's a profound fight for wholeness, for authenticity, for the right to define your own narrative when the world is constantly trying to define it for you.
And when you look at Scar's psychological journey, the profound rejection, the agony of being silenced, carrying the immense weight of hidden knowledge, the burden of seeing truth no one else would, it's so reminiscent of Daniel Bates's own publicly shared battles. We know he's talked about living with bipolar disorder, PTSD, anxiety, avoidant personality disorder, and that profound numbness he felt, like he'd lost the rhythm of life. You can almost see how he might find parts of himself, or at least profound empathy, in a character like Taka.
It makes complete devastating sense. For both, art, whether it's filmmaking, music, or writing, becomes this crucial, perhaps the only way to process and express these intense internal wars, these profound psychological landscapes.
Yeah.
Scar's radical rebellion is his desperate form of art, maybe, his way of expressing his truth. Daniel's vast and diverse creative output, his entire business empire even, feels like his way of navigating and making sense of his own profound psychological landscape, of finding meaning and purpose in profound internal chaos. It's about turning deep personal pain into something externally impactful and meaningful.
And we've seen Daniel Bates challenge narratives before. Like he said, our Peter Pan deep dive in episode 9, for instance, completely flipped hero-villain roles on their head.
Right.
This Scar's Truth project does the exact same thing, but maybe with even more emotional weight, more depth.
It feels like it.
Yeah.
It forces us to question who the real villain is when your motivations are revealed, when you see the systemic pressures and personal traumas that shape them. It's about rigorously deconstructing established myths and showing that truth is rarely simple, rarely black and white.
Never.
It's messy, it's nuanced, and it's often, as Scar says, written by kings. Both Peter Pan and Scar's story, through Daniel's vision's lens, force us to step beyond our comfort zones, to consider the other side of the coin, to see the systems and environments that shape individuals, often pushing them to extremes. It's a challenge to our own preconceived notions of good and evil, heroism and villainy.
And it really comes back to Daniel Bates's constant, almost insistent emphasis on authenticity. He always talks about being 100% me, 100% real, and his philosophy of legacy moves only.
Legacy moves only.
Scar's Truth embodies this by digging deep into a character's true origins, aiming for a lasting, meaningful reinterpretation that isn't just about entertainment or a quick cash grab. It feels like it's about building something that resonates profoundly and leaves a mark, a truth that endures.
It's about uncovering a deeper, more resonant truth that transcends fleeting popularity or simplistic narratives. For Daniel, authenticity isn't just a marketing slogan or a personal quirk. It feels like the absolute core of his creative and business philosophy.
Yeah, it seems foundational.
He's building something designed to last, to shift perspectives, because it's built on raw, unflinching, often uncomfortable truth. He's taking his experiences, his pain, and forging it into something that might help others see their own hidden truths, maybe.
So, after diving into all of this, into the depths of Scar's truth through adanielsvision's eyes, what really strikes me is the incredible, almost disorienting power of perspective. Changing how we view a character like Scar from pure, unadulterated evil to this complex, tragic figure, someone who treats villainy as a desperate act of truth-telling. It totally challenges our own assumptions about good and evil, about heroes and villains. It makes you wonder about every story you thought you knew.
It absolutely does. It makes you pause and critically consider what stories you've accepted without questioning, without digging beneath the surface. How many narratives, whether personal, historical, or cultural, have we simply swallowed whole without investigating the unseen motivations, the silenced voices, the hidden histories, the suppressed truths?
Right.
It really highlights that there's always, always more beneath the surface waiting to be uncovered, if only we're brave enough to look.
And the theme of silence versus speaking one's truth, it's so central to Scar's story, isn't it? That kingdom built on silence, where asking questions is a sin, where uncomfortable truths are buried. And then Daniel Bates' own journey, where he talks about the ghost finally speaking through his memoir, telling his story before it swallows him whole. What does it truly cost, in real terms, to be silenced, to have your identity, your insights, your very being devalued?
Yeah, what's the cost?
And what does it cost to finally find your voice, to break that silence, even if it means disrupting everything, even if it means burning down the house, metaphorically, to reveal the foundations?
It's a profound and deeply personal question. For Scar, the cost of silence, of being denied his authentic voice and truth, was essentially his identity, his peace, and ultimately his life, becoming the monster he was labeled as.
Yeah.
For Daniel, the cost of silence seemed to be this internal fragmentation, that feeling of being already gone, disconnected, until he had to tell his story before it consumed him completely. Finding your voice, speaking your truth, especially when it's uncomfortable or challenges the status quo, is an act of profound courage and self-preservation. It's often the only way to heal, to integrate, to move forward.
And it really makes you appreciate how Daniel Bates transforms his own personal struggles and insights into such powerful, multifaceted art and business ventures. This isn't just art for art's sake. It feels like art as a weapon, art as therapy, art as strategy.
Yeah, all of the above.
It's about taking profound internal pain and trauma and forging it into something impactful and meaningful, not just for himself, but also maybe to create a framework for other artists, other voices who might feel unseen or unheard. It's turning pain into strategy, building an entire empire from what could have absolutely crushed him.
It's a testament to resilience, really, a blueprint for taking the raw material of personal suffering and forging it into something impactful and meaningful. He's not just creating, he's building a platform, maybe a movement, designed to amplify voices that challenge, that dissect, that reveal. It's a powerful and truly inspiring loop, showing how deeply personal truth can resonate universally.
Honestly, after this one, my mind is just reeling. Like, how many other stories, how many other cultural touchstones have we just accepted without questioning? Scar's story, through this lens, just makes you rethink everything about established narratives, about who gets to write history and who gets to be called a villain.
Right.
It truly feels like there's always more beneath the surface, just waiting for someone to dare to dig.
And it makes me incredibly curious about Daniel Bates' other creative projects now. He's mentioned other takes, right? Like on Gotham and even TMNT.
Oh, yeah. TMNT, what did that even look like?
I mean, what kind of radical surgical angles is he finding there? And what about his diverse music catalog? We've only scratched the surface of that, and I can only imagine the personal truths embedded in those tracks, given what we've learned today.
Right. What's the hidden truth in Gotham, that sprawling, gritty city? Or with the Ninja Turtles, those beloved sewer-dwelling heroes? It sounds kind of wild.
Totally.
And the music, the snippets we've heard, it sounds like there's so much more personal truth, more raw feeling embedded in those tracks, like a direct pipeline to that ghost persona he talked about.
Yeah, there's definitely more to uncover there, for sure.
Yeah.
This episode is powered by NeonKore Media for stories they said were too real to tell.